but they used to be employed by the Escapist, and the Escapist was owned by some other bigger company. The bigger company said we're not profitable enough, so they told the Escapist fire this person, and they fired someone.
Shakes. You've got a red dot on your forehead. You should probably duck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And they told him, hey, fire this person.
Game begin.
The Mystery Gaming Bros are awesome! The Mystery Gaming Bros know how to party!
Ah!
This is the
Jesus
Mystery
Christ.
Gaming Bros, and it looks like it's the end of gaming. Hurry up and get to the bunker. It's over, guys.
For the love of God.
First they're going to gobble up all the independent game companies, then they're going to turn them into microtransaction farms. Oh my god! Hurry, I'm
Jesus
closing the
Christ,
bunker
wait.
doors.
No, you bastards, don't
Hurry
leave
up,
me.
guys.
On the
For the love
door!
of God, wait.
Hodor!
No.
Hodor!
Oh God, that goes my other leg.
Oh
Well, we may be alive, but gaming is dead. How are you guys feeling about it? What will we do now?
I actually don't know what you're talking about, but go on.
Okay, well,
I'm just gonna fall back on the old classics that I've always been playing.
well, you
Gaming is
saw the
dead.
disaster
What-
going out
gaming,
there.
I'm sorry, gaming is dead. What kind of headline is that? Who's pushing this nonsense?
Well,
Gaming isn't
I'll
dead.
tell you about it. I'll tell you about it soon. But first, I'm going to start with this video about why D4 players will hate Last Epoch. It's like a bit of a comedy video that's gone viral on the internet. Has basically, spread the news about Last Epoch to everyone, and it's had such a successful launch that they had severe server problems. So, yeah, and it was largely because of this video. So we're going to watch it together. You can enable sound for it because a lot of other YouTubers have commentated over this video, so we might as well do it too. And play.
No clue what it is. This is gonna be a fresh watch for I think me and Shakes.
Cool.
Yep.
Let's do
Diablo
it.
4 superfans, be warned.
So
On
immediately,
February
I'm looking at
21st,
it.
Last Epoch will
Isometric,
officially launch, and you
know,
are going to
Diablo
hate it.
style game.
This video is for
And
us
I
Diablo
think
4 enthusiasts who
that
believe
2024,
Diablo 4 is the perfect ARPG
which is the year that
in
it is,
every way, with absolutely no
has been
issues.
a year of.
If you are not one of these people,
I don't want to
and
say the word
actually like
piracy
Last
out
Epoch,
and out,
I
but
suggest
like
you
games
stop
that are
watching
like,
this
hey,
video
we
right
see
now,
these games
as
that
it
have
may
been super
trigger you.
popular, but have been
Okay, now that
following it
those
in for
people
like
are
the
gone,
last
and
however
it's just
long
us
period of
Diablo
time,
purists,
and we're going
we
to
can
make that
finally get
game
into
that you already
why
have,
we're
and we're going to
going
make
to
it better.
hate
We
Last
saw that
Epoch.
with.
My first of
We're
many
seeing that
reasons
now with
you're going
Epoch.
to hate
We
Last
saw it with
Epoch
Pal World,
is its price.
and we've seen
It's
it with
only
other games where
$35 for the full game.
established
What a
IPs where they've
stupid
gotten
number, am I right?
complacent with
I
their
know I'm
fan
not going to
base,
enjoy myself
and
unless
now
the
they're
game is at
making these
least
new
$70.
games. They're like, hey,
and there is no
we can do
$100
it
early
better.
access version. Like,
And
come
now
on,
we have
guys. Are you
these
even
early
trying
access
here?
games that are coming
And get
out,
this,
and they're
they're going
being
to keep updating the
viral
game
popular
and won't
because
charge for
it's
DLC
giving
and
the fans what they
expansions.
want.
This
That's
is
something
awful.
that the
It's such a bad
big
idea.
AAA
Diablo
game
4
industries
is going to
have
have
been
an
refusing to
expansion
do.
every year. And I know
All right,
after this
cool.
year's experience playing this
So we call that
absolute
piracy.
gem
I
of a
mean,
game,
this is
I
essentially
can't wait
just
to dish
moving
out
on
another
a
$70 for the
already
expansion.
established genre,
The next thing I
but making
absolutely
it better,
despise
making an
about Last
improvement. This is
Epoch
just the natural
its skill
progression of
trees.
things, in my
Yes,
opinion.
I said
You know,
skill
if
tree,
you're gonna be
Yeah,
complacent
meaning
with
more
there's
than
also
one.
the
games,
fact
You
that
have
then
a
the
passive
you'll see
skill
it and know
tree,
that
then
someone's
a
gonna
whole
come in and do it
complete
better than
skill
you.
tree for every single skill in the game.
Yeah,
Again,
check this out.
What
The
an
skill trees.
absolutely
This is
stupid
a pretty
idea
funny bit.
and a waste of time. Let
You
me show
gotta
you an
be
example
greedy in
side
this
by
business,
side
Tony.
using Fireball.
Check out
Rule
the
number one,
check out the
never
skill tree for
underestimate
Fireball.
Diablo 4's
other guy's
Fireball
greed.
and its skill tree section. So
Oh,
freaking
yeah,
clean.
check out that skill
and
tree
let's
in
look at
Diablo
our
4.
options here. We can either
Oh,
do
wow,
more
look at
damage
that
with
skill
Fireball,
tree.
or over here, we can do more crit damage with Fireball.
Whoa.
Thank you, Blizzard, for giving us what we want. Meaningful, game-changing choices in a skill tree. Now let's look over here at this abomination of a skill tree for Last Epoch's Fireball.
Oh, I get it.
The
It's
options we have to
terrible.
augment Fireball here
Yeah,
are
no, this whole
turning
thing
it
is
into an
supposed to be
ability
straightforward.
where we can shoot multiple fireballs in a cone, or turn it into a plasma ball
Why would you
that
want
does
that?
more damage, or add
Why
an
would you
explosion,
want more
or homing
choices?
feature,
Yeah, I
or
know.
turning it
Right.
into a flamethrower.
We gamers are
Come
dumb.
on.
And we can even
don't-
combine
we
these
can't
together
comprehend
and
all
have
this.
a plasma
Only need one
flamethrower that
choice.
explodes.
That's too
I
many
gotta
choices.
stop.
I
I'm
need the
getting too
dice to make
overwhelmed from all these
decisions for me.
options.
Yeah.
I think you can all see what a major waste of time all these options are. They we
Well-
actually want in an ARPG. Like
They're
having a
asking for
system
too
that
much
locks
here.
skill points behind finding over 150 random statues, or
150
having a
random
world
statues
boss,
is way
but
too
make
many
sure it's on a
statues.
3-hour timer so
What
we
kind
can
of a
all
game
make sure we're
mechanic is
there
that?
to kill it.
Just
Or
finding
dungeons where you need to
150
pick up an
random
idol,
things in a
but you
world.
need 3 of
Yeah.
them to open the
It
door.
sounds like
but
a
can't hold more than
3D
one,
platform
so you gotta
collectible
backtrack.
at that point.
Ah, yes, the good old
Sounds
days.
like propaganda to me.
Speaking of being overwhelmed, let's talk stash tabs.
Oh, yeah.
Again, Diablo 4 has the perfect amount of them. 5. Maybe 6. Okay, I really don't know. Whoever uses that many tabs. Right, guys? This
that's way
is
too
where
many
I
tabs.
almost
I
threw
agree.
up in my mouth when I heard in Last Epoch you can have over 100 stash tabs. What even
Oh.
is that? Do you
Oh.
think we're stupid and don't know how to manage our stash? Well, I think you're stupid, Last
Stash
Epoch,
these
for not
nuts.
even making these
Yeah.
purchasable with real money. You just buy them with in-game gold? Come on, you gotta have at least some pay for convenience
What is
or pay
that?
for power, but you said you won't.
I work
How
hard to spend my
stupid
money
can
on a
you
game
be?
that I've already spent money
Okay,
on.
okay. Before I keep
Yeah,
going,
think of all the
down this
money
path,
they're
let's
leaving
get
on the
back to
table
stash
that they
tabs.
could be
In Diablo 4,
extracting from
we have
us.
5 classes. All we need is
I
5
know,
tabs,
like, I mean,
one for
how
each
am I,
class.
how
and
am I
Blizzard
supposed to respect the
believes
game
and
if it's
trusts
not
us
bending me
to make
over and
meaningful
stretching me
choices
open?
on
Yeah,
what items
exactly.
we can keep. Sometimes I spend
I wanna
hours
hear my
just
wallet
going through
bones
all
crunch
the
with every
items,
dollar I
deciding
spend.
what I need to remove. Some of the most meaningful moments I've ever had in Diablo were just me staring at my items in my stash,
Okay, I really thought
or
you were going
even
to use the soundbite
inventory,
for that one again. I'm
deciding
glad you didn't.
if I
I
should
know that's
keep
super
a
strange.
weapon with more damage to healthy enemies
That would have been a
or
good one. I
another
didn't think
weapon
about
with
that.
more damage to slowed enemies. You know what? This brings me to my next point on why us Diablo 4 superfans will absolutely hate Last Epoch. And that's because they have a loot filter. What?
A
Why
loot
would you want to
filter?
pick up less loot? And why would I want to only see items I need? Do they think we're not smart enough
Are we
to make
not
loot
the
decisions on
goblins
our
here? Like,
own?
what the hell?
No, that can't be it. Us Diablo 4 purists are the smartest out of any ARPG player out there.
Totally.
We don't need to be able to filter out white and blue items. We don't need to be able to color grade gear that drops based on having stats like plus minion damage. They don't even know how much fun we have spending countless minutes sorting through a whole inventory of items,
Oh my
carefully
God,
looking
dude.
at all the stats to see what may be an upgrade after every dungeon run.
Dude,
Oh
my
God,
satire
I'm
meter
getting
is going
antsy.
to break.
All this talk
Yeah.
about a full inventory of yellow items is really make me want to
Well, that's
stop
what makes
making
this
this
video
video
really
right
fun.
now and get back to my perfect Diablo 4. But before I do, I have 2 more reasons why you're going to hate Last Epoch. One of which is the crafting system. In our exquisite game, Diablo 4, we can choose one stat to re-roll where it gives you a random new stat. Last Epoch has so many crafting options, I'm only going to tell you a few of my favorites. I mean least favorites. Least favorites. The first is being able to put
He
the
almost
exact
sounded
stat
like he
you
locked it
want
then.
onto a piece of gear. You want fire damage? You can add fire damage. You can transform an item into a unique or set item. Yes, there are sets in the game. How ridiculous. This last part about crafting, I'm sure you will all hate, and that's the ability to
man.
craft a powerful weapon on your
Like, I'm
high-level
not a fan
character
of the
and
Diablo
give it to your
series.
low-level character to
I
make them
understand
completely
it. I'm
overpowered
familiar with it,
and
but,
able
like,
to breeze through the
I don't
early
play
game,
it.
destroying everything in sight.
But, like,
Yeah, same.
How silly.
as I
Don't
look
they
at
know
this,
killing hordes of
like,
enemies
it-
super fast is not fun at all?
this makes
Give me
wanna
my
play
4
Last
damage
Epoch. Like,
Diablo
that's-
4
let me
druid
just
any
tell
day.
you that right now.
Because
Like,
we
as
are
someone
real
who doesn't
gamers.
even want to play
Now
Diablo,
for my
I'm not
final
looking for a
and
better
possibly
Diablo.
most despised reason
This
us
is,
Diablo
like,
4
just looking
devotees
like an
will hate
actual,
Last Epoch and its endgame. They
appealing
have 3
game
endgame activities.
unto
Like a
itself.
The first
fun
being
game.
dungeons, where you'll be able to target farm rewards and have varying levels of difficulty. Then they have the Monolith of Fate, which has so much depth to it, but I'm going to keep things short because I really got to get to my inventory full of yellows. It consists of a huge branching mapping system with endgame rewards, modifiers, and bosses, with the challenge and rewards increasing with its difficulty the further you go. There's a whole lot more to monoliths, but who wants to go over the endgame systems to that extent? I do, and I'll probably make another video about this soon. Then finally, we have the arena. There are 2 modes. One is the Arena of Champions, with a set number of waves followed by a boss. Each wave, you can increase the difficulty with a modifier which increases your reward at the end. Then there's the
risk, high
Endless
reward.
Arena.
That's just good
And
game
here's
design.
where I feel the developers of Last Epoch are either aliens or working for the Illuminati, because this Endless Arena has a ladder system. A fully
spell
functional,
Illuminati without
active
Naughty.
ladder system.
How can a little
Guys,
indie team
Last Epoch is a small
possibly
company.
have a
So
ladder?
considering it is taking Blizzard months to launch a ladder system, and this game will have it on launch, I am sure there's either some supernatural
So
or
here's-
future
like, here's the
technology
thing
at
with the
play
Illuminati.
here, and we
It's
should
like,
just not
I would
trust
love
it.
to think that
Okay,
there's some
so for those of you
all-knowing,
still
like,
here
cabal
and
of
are
people
sure
who
you will
are
hate
actually
Last Epoch,
puppeteering the direction
stop
of the
watching
world.
now. You
But
have
You wanna
a
know the
pretty
best part?
reveals to sift through.
It's just
It's going to be a
Go get you.
whole. Yeah, it's going to be a whole bunch
Okay,
of smaller
so
groups
those of you who are
vying
still
for the
here,
wheel.
I assume you actually
That's
are
the best
playing
part.
or will play Last Epoch on February
No one
21st.
person, no one
If
group is in
so,
control.
then
It's just
subscribe
a
to my
whole bunch of
channel,
hands
because
vying for
I
the
am
wheel.
too, and I do
Nobody's in
plan
control.
on making more videos on this game. Have a good one.
So
Bye.
Daenerys was right. We just gotta nuke everything.
I mean, nuke everything that isn't the states. We'll be fine.
All right, so
And, you know, Australian brothers.
So yeah,
Alright.
this guy's just become like a really viral channel on YouTube from that video, and he's like, yeah, probably making a lot of money now from making that viral video, and yeah, I just thought that
I
was
see
really
how
interesting.
I can see how something like that would get under your skin, but I don't really care about YouTube metrics because I'm not a YouTube person. And
Yeah,
like I'm
well,
not,
fair enough.
I'm not a YouTube producer, but I understand like your take on that. My take on it is that like I've looked at all the Diablo games from Diablo 2, 3, and then 4, and being like, wow, that's some improved graphics for what essentially looks like the same game to me. And I'm sure there were differences between the versions that matter to the people who played it. But to me, it always looked like, no, I'm not really
Well,
interested in that.
the
But this one
difference
here-
is that Diablo 4 is actually worse than Diablo 2 at this point.
You know what? There's a lot of game series you can point at and say that X number is worse than the one that came before it. There are several that are like that, and I'm sure Diablo 4 is no exception. I don't even have to play it to say, yeah, you're probably right, because that just seems to be the name of the game. Where you got like the big game companies that have gotten fat on the throne and lazy and just phoning it in, been producing a subpar product, and you've got these up and comers who are just making something that is of the similar genre, but you get these hungry developers who have their thumb on the pulse of what the game player base wants, and they're making these games that people want to play. And you've got a couple of immediate viral successes of 2024. You've got Last Epoch, which I've seen so many people playing. You've got Helldivers, you've got Pal World. Pal World is like the big freaking poster child right now of like David and Goliath, where you've got this little I don't even know how many people they had. Like, it was like a dozen people developing the game going up against what was essentially a multi-billion-dollar corporation of Nintendo and Game Freak making Pokemon, and they just came out swinging for the fences, and everyone loved what they were selling.
Yeah, cool. Cash,
mean,
did you want to
that's
bring up
cool.
that
When
meme
you-
I sent you? I sent you a meme.
Let's see. I did not see the meme, but let me go ahead and see it now.
Aw, got a meme.
Apparently so. We have a meme in the chat.
Let's see the meme.
Indie devs
God, is
making
that Willy
games.
Wonka? Is that the new Willy Wonka thing?
Yeah. You guys heard about what
Freaking
happened with that?
atrocious. Look at that.
Yeah, I heard
No,
about that.
No, I did not
This is
actually. I saw a
this
little
is
snippet, but that was it.
this meme's gonna be a hit or miss, but yes, that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah,
So,
so
alright,
the
since
Willy
I am
Wonka
a foodie,
experience
I
is
do
where
not have to-
like a large company tried to make like this scam completely out of AI art, and they tried to fool people into thinking it was like this real event of like a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory thing. Anyway, I just thought that was a
Come on, like
Cool,
I gotta
man.
have more information than that. Like that tells me nothing.
yeah.
What happened? What happened?
Well, yeah. So these guys they tried to make this experience. Oh, I don't know.
Okay. Like
Okay, so basically,
else?
indie devs are making much better games than the AI generated slop that billion-dollar companies are making, whether they be movies or video games. Yeah, I
Listen,
guess that's
here's
it.
the thing. Rocky 2 taught us this lesson back in the 80s. All right, if you get fat and lazy at the top of on the throne with the crown, there's going to be someone who is young, hungry, and ambitious coming after you because they've got everything to gain and nothing to lose.
All
And
right.
that's a hard lesson for all these game corporations to learn. is that if you're on the throne, you cannot get lazy because someone is going to come for your crown. And Pokemon has been laying in their laurels for the last 25 years, not innovating, not really. I mean, like when we had Legends of Arceus, that was like the biggest innovation they've had to the whole game series ever. And that was what, in 2016, 2017? No, it was later.
Probably
than
even
that.
further than that, honestly.
Could you mute that, Cash? We'll go into
Sure.
wallpaper engine a little later.
Oh, I'm just putting up something in the background so we can have, a few
Yeah, it's
few little
just,
things
Yeah.
going on.
But like, I think that 2024 is the year that is teaching the lesson that if you're at the top, you can't get complacent. Just because you got there doesn't mean you're guaranteed to stay there, because there are plenty of hungry developers who can do more with less. And you got too big, you got too bloated as a company, and you're like a great big battleship. You're terrifying and all that, and you can do a lot of damage, but all it takes is one little nimble submarine with a torpedo, and you get sunk.
Isn't Helldivers 2 also not necessarily a large studio, if I remember correctly?
No,
or are
it's
they,
not.
like-
It is not at
Oh, right.
all.
yeah.
Right.
I could spend the next hour and a half talking about Helldivers, so you just let me know when you want to open up that can,
Yeah.
because I'm ready.
Yeah.
First, I just want to
can't
go
wait.
into the reason why I had that dramatic intro. This is a headline that's going around lately. Major companies, EA, Blizzard, and Bethesda cutting 10% of their employees, 900 people in the case of Blizzard. Okay, so that's just what I wrote down, but here's an actual quote. In the first 6 weeks of 2024, the industry has announced more than 6,000 job cuts, according to Kotaku Tally, already outplacing a brutal layoff year in 2023. That includes 1,900 jobs from Microsoft's gaming division just months after its $69 billion acquisition of publisher Activision Blizzard on the 15th of Feb 2024. There's been a lot of talk about how, these AAA companies are kind of panicking and just laying off huge portions of their workforce. They're making crappy games. And there's a lot of fear mongering going around about how, they're saying that there's going to be a video game crash of 2024 at this rate.
All right, so it is fear mongering. It's being done so on the part of the news media and the social media outlets that are trying to get sensational headlines for you to click on them.
Yeah.
The reality is a lot less exciting. If you've been following The Second Wind, which is Yahtzee Crowshaw's, second. I'm asking you, Mystery. Have you been following The Second Wind?
No.
I know I have not.
All right, so like if you know Zero Punctuation, that show with Yahtzee Croshaw, which I'm surprised you don't, being an Aussie yourself. What happened was Yahtzee Croshaw is like the most well-known video game reviewer on the internet. So this is really, really in your wheelhouse, and I'm surprised this has escaped your radar. But
I guess I watch too much American stuff.
all right. So, anyways, they explain it really well when this sort of stuff happens. When you look at, the fourth quarter, October, November, December of the fiscal year, you have these companies that are like, all right, did we make these particular projections for our shareholders to do whatever? And if they don't, and then they say, okay, well, we need to pick up these margins to say that we did make enough profits. And then they can do that in two ways, either by selling more stuff or by cutting costs. And one of the things that they can do by cutting costs is to just take assets and sell them off and widen that margin. It's a really dick thing to do, because what it does is it ends up laying off entire departments or companies. But Zero Punctuation,
what I've heard is that they usually end up just rehiring those roles 6 months later when they realize they actually need them. They've cut off their own foot, and then they're trying to sew the foot back on.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that happens, but like the problem you run into is that when you start dealing with stuff at the corporate level, you're so high up on the hierarchy that you're in the upper atmosphere and there's not enough oxygen and you
Yeah,
lose
I
sight
don't
of the
think any of them are
forest.
gamers up there. They're just business people.
No, but you have to remember. Now listen, all of us, you, me, all of our listeners, we have to remember that making video games is a business. That's what the producers are there for. That's what the distributors, the publishers, they are in that business to make money. Now, someone at some point was making a video game because it's art, because it's something that means a lot to them. But in order to get involved with a publisher, with a producer, with a distributor, those people are in it to make the money, and it's a business, and it is a business, and we can't forget that. So when they start making business decisions, even if they're misguided and bad, even if they're bad for business, they're going to be especially bad for the art. The problem is that, like you've got the art side of things and the business side of things, and they're never going to see eye to eye, even when things are going well. So when we look at all these layoffs that happened in January, February, it's a result of decisions that were made in fourth quarter back in October, November, December, when they weren't making their numbers, and then they had to make these, margins wide enough to make their shareholders happy because these are publicly traded companies. And it's all a very messy, complicated topic. And it sucks, but it's never the end of gaming, because the simple matter is that like you could have these big companies fail, and there are going to be 100 scrappy companies who can do it better, more efficiently, with better hardware, with
Yeah, I'm
more
sure
technology.
bureaucracy causes a lot of confusion.
But it's especially prevalent in the technology world, like where you're making video games, where you can have these younger people come up and replace the old so much faster, like a dozen times in a generation, as opposed to the old, the old guard of like you had to wait for the old politicians to die before the new policies could come in. With technology, you have people who are young, who know how to do things younger, better. The video game making industry is more nimble and faster. It changes. It's just as fast as the social media around it. And so you've got these big, old guard companies that are quote unquote failing, but they need to. The young need to consume the old, especially in the technology sector.
Yeah. So, Cash, did you
Agree.
just want to go to YouTube now?
Sure.
That it was-
I'm looking at.
we don't want you to accidentally reveal your porn to us, like some streamers have done
Don't
lately.
worry, I've already turned off all the mature ratings, so we're Gucci on that front.
Cool.
But what I will say is, I just looked up this video, or this. I was looking around a little bit. I found this article from Polygon from January 3rd, and it's just looking into a few of the games that are going to be indie games coming out in 2024, and some things that people are going to be looking forward to. I don't
Okay.
know if you guys have heard of it. I have an Indica, Locomotive, Open Roads, or Chasing the Unseen. This one's actually one that I haven't seen, but it does seem pretty interesting to me. It just seems, I don't know, I like open worlds, or not open world, like a sea-based kind of find the baddie, find the monster, I guess you can say. Like, for this one, it's colossal creatures. That seems pretty cool to me. I always like those kind of
Sounds a bit like
those
that
kind of
Shadows of the Colossus. I mean, that's probably an game that they should remake, Shadows of the Colossus, because when it was made,
Well,
technology was pretty limited then. But imagine what
Well,
sort of
they
huge
did.
monster games they could make now.
They remade Shadow of the Colossus for the PlayStation 3.
Oh, okay.
That actually reminds me of goodness gracious, what was that one game that came out? Elden Ring. That reminds me of Elden Ring, where you're fighting these giant mythical monsters.
Yeah, I haven't
That
played
to me,
Elden
that's
Ring
what I'm
yet.
thinking of. I thought it was pretty fun. I enjoyed it.
Maybe
thought that was
I
pretty-
will now that this expansion has come out. But yeah, I'm pretty limited for money, so yeah, I'd have to like either get it by illegitimate means or just stick to kind of indie.
Wait, hold it. They
games.
made Shadow of the Colossus for the PS4.
I guess so.
Man, I mean, I still have the original disc in my original PlayStation 2 to play Shadow of the Colossus, and like the gameplay on that was just amazing.
Cool.
I've never even seen it, so this is my first intro to it, I guess you could say. Should we put on the sound? Should we leave with sound on, or do you think PS4?
No, just leave it off because
I mean, I
we
recognize
could
the
get
intro.
copyright struck if we put the wrong audio in. The last Epoch video is okay because everyone else is I think they're not gonna copyright strike people that are making that video viral. Yeah, it's basically just a game about you like literally climbing up monsters to stab them in their weak spots and stuff. And yeah, it's sort of like a whole parkour challenge when it comes to finding a way to beat these giant monsters.
Dude, the turtle episode, the
It's like
turtle
a
one. I
freaking
don't remember
ant.
the order they happen in, but
Yeah.
that's number 2. That's
It's
number
like an
4.
ant trying to murder a human.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
I
literally
mean-
All you've got is like a little tiny sword. That'd be like a toothpick.
Yeah,
to them.
but no, you have to just remember that you're a bee, and these things are allergic to bee stings.
All right,
That's
I
all it
like that.
takes.
I like that analogy better because some humans die from bee stings. That's happened before. So it's like, yeah, you know what? Fair enough. Fair enough.
And I think it's
Go.
this is a little off topic, but like if you think that you are too small as an individual to make an impact on the world, try leaving a mosquito in your bedroom when you go to bed at night. No, I'm saying try leaving a mosquito in your bedroom at night.
Oh yeah, they're gonna screw you up. You'll be covered in hives by the time you wake up, or whatever they are, mosquito
Right,
bites.
but the point is,
Mosquito bites.
Anyone can make a difference.
Yeah,
Negative or positive, because a stupid mosquito is negative impacting.
No, but that's all right. That's not the
Yeah,
point of the thought
I'm
exercise.
screwing with you. I know.
I'm saying you can make a difference for the positive.
I
It's
mean,
a lot
I think that
easier.
depends. I think in some cases you need a lot of little people to take out a giant.
That definitely helps, but
Yeah.
like the
But
point I was
it's
getting
not-
at is that
it's
you
not
can
guaranteed.
make a difference for the positive or the negative. It's a lot easier to make a negative impact. That's why, like when you watch Star Wars, they talk about how the dark side isn't more powerful, but it's easier, it's more seductive. And like if you look at, and I'm not trying to take this to a political place, but like when you look at like how many people you've got that are like doing like school shootings and whatnot, I think that it comes back to a sense of a lack of agency where people feel like they can't make a difference in their life.
Well,
Because,
only
you know,
cowards use guns, in my opinion. That's just.
I highly disagree with that one.
Well,
but
that's
again,
because I'm Australian.
But-
We don't like guns here, so.
fair enough.
So why don't you fight?
But
the
going
EU
into a
with
little bit of
sticks?
a political place, I think if you want a strike or a union to succeed,
Whoa.
you're going to need lots of people. Yeah.
No, and that's just it. It's like it's not having good opinions. Having better opinions is nice, but like having a lot of people agree with you is better.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
In terms of pushing
that
it.
just makes that easier. That just makes it easier also to hold that opinion. It's easier to agree with the mob than it is to disagree with the mob. Though sometimes you do
Yeah.
need to give people what's right for them instead of what's easier for them. It's much easier to say, "Oh yeah, go ahead, take that drug. What's the problem?" than it is to say, "Hey, yeah, this is really going to screw up your life. Just so you know."
All right,
This
so
is really
hold
screwing
on.
up.
I take a big issue with the DARE program because like one of the things that they taught me is that when I was in like the 5th grade, 6th grade, they were like, when you become a grown up, there's gonna be people on the streets that are gonna be offering you drugs. And I'm like, I have been
I
an
have never
adult.
had that happen to me.
Never. I've never had a stranger say like, "Hey, you want some free drugs?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
I've had a woman ask me on the street once if she could give me a blowjob for $50.
That's
I
a
did
prostitute.
have that. That was the one thing that I did have. It was when I was over vacationing in Japan. And this chick came up. She's like, "Oh yeah, I'm from Los Angeles. I need money. How about we go to my hotel room? $60." Is like something about this just doesn't seem right. This seems like a whole setup. for
Well, yeah,
something
the
that's
woman that
really
asked
not-
me, she was like missing teeth and stuff, and was clearly a meth addict. So
Well, was she
No
like a
thanks.
lizard lot?
All right,
Or
I'm
a
just
lot
saying
lizard?
though, if a girl has no teeth, it's probably
I mean,
amazing.
Shay's got a good point there. Like, the no teeth means no biting down. Like,
Mhm.
that's something to think about.
well, it was
Cracking
more like
down,
jagged teeth and like some teeth.
Oh,
Oh,
nope, I'm a nope
God.
right out of there.
No.
yeah, no, I do not need a mimic going down on me.
Anyway, before
Anyways.
this gets demonetized, Maybe we should get some video game violence going with Helldivers 2.
What is this that you sent me real quick? I saw this in the chat. Second Wind.
Yeah.
Shakes, you wanna like which one of these do you think is more representative of what you wanted to send?
I
Unexpected Success,
pinged you to
Helldivers
get you
2?
into the channel here, but I sent that to Mystery because the Second Wind is Yahtzee Crowshaw's pack of people who he worked with when he was doing zero punctuation, which it blows my mind that you don't know what zero punctuation is.
I have heard that before, but I'm not really sure what it is.
I have never heard of them.
Okay,
this is my first introduction to them, so blow my mind.
Okay. No, all right. So, oh my God. So he does these animated videos talking about doing video game reviews. He's been doing it since freaking BioShock came out. And so there's a whole group of people, and like if you like the Chronicle link right there, the 8th one there where it says Chronicle with Frost, like he used to do a series called The Stuff of Legends, and his series of talking about like these things that have happened in the video game world, where it either happened in a video game or it was a meta thing that happened. He tells these like bedtime story style games, and I'm gonna just play the audio. His voice is just liquid sex.
All right, let's hear it.
Hacker leaks Grand Theft Auto 6
it is,
footage while
100%.
under police custody.
100%, that's buttery smooth.
Practically sells itself. Hacker is such an aloof and sexy term thanks to Hollywood's glamorization of hot men smoldering at 8 monitors with varying looks of triumph and disappointment as they click-clack away on the keyboard and garble farble tech jargon. I've disarticulated the Ethernet cable from the jack with the frame of my chosen seating apparatus again.
Yeah, I mean, I see this
Hacker
one.
can also
a
be
GTA
a scary
6
term,
leak
thanks
using
to
an Amazon Fire
fear-mongering from
Stick,
government
Amazon TV
institutions
Fire
looking
Stick.
Dude, all right, so pause.
to fight off a
I don't want to
virtual
spoil it because this is a fantastic story where a hacker leaked GTA 6 using an Amazon Fire Stick from a hotel room, and it's an amazing story. And he's got a whole bunch of other ones. And
Yeah.
So here's the thing: I would say go back and watch his old stuff, but his old stuff is owned by The Escapists, which is their previously owned company that owned them. And I'm trying not to patron them. I'm not saying boycott them, but boycott them because they fired all these people. I would say, listen, I would tell you to look into the origin of the second by some other bigger company. The bigger company said we're not profitable enough, so they told the escapist fire this person, and they fired someone.
Shakes. You've got a red dot on your forehead. You should probably duck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And they told him, hey, fire this person, and they fired that person. And then all the people who worked for that person were like, well, screw it. If you're going to fire him, we're all quitting, which included Yahtzee Crowshaw, who did Zero Punctuation. And Zero Punctuation was the flagship program for the escapists. So he left, and everyone else just went with him. And I'm not telling anyone to go and attack the escapists. There's still people who work there. They're human beings. Don't harass them. But they all left in solidarity with the person who had gotten fired, and so they created the Second Wind, and they've been wildly successful. They do not have any kind of corporate ownership. They are entirely crowdfunded by their Patreon, and I'm not trying to sell their Patreon. I don't get any kickbacks for doing this shit. I'm just saying that they don't answer to anyone except their own creative selves, and all their money that they make, they go straight into producing what they do. And they have been prolific with the content that they've been making in the last 2 months. So
cool. If they do want to sponsor us, though, that'd be great.
I was gonna say, and that seems like the kind of place that you'd want to go and support. Like, it's not like these people were all fired and out of spite they made this. One person was let go, and out of solidarity, the rest followed. That's the kind of situation where you're just like, all right, you know what? Yeah, I can get behind them. I can get behind this.
Yeah, and the problem is that it was a corporate decision. It wasn't even made by the escapists themselves. It was the people above them who told the escapists, "Hey, you need to fire this person." And I'm really there's a lot of nuance to this story. It's worth everyone going in and like researching what happened themselves, because it really is an important story that needs to be known about how these sort of decisions get made in a lot of companies and not just the video game ones. Because this story is happening all over the world all the time, every year. But these guys decided, hey, we're going to make this thing, and if you want to try to support us, this is literally we're trying to get our second wind, like in the middle of a fight, because they were fighting for their very existence, and they asked for a handful of people to try to support them, and they got so much support, like they got hundreds of thousands of people supporting them. It was amazing, and so because of that, they were able to produce tons of content, and that's exactly what they've done, and that's why I think that they deserve the support that they're getting.
All right, cool. Hopefully they can sponsor us.
I think everyone's going to appreciate the still that we've been relaxing on and waiting on here.
Yeah, it's
From Lawnmower Man.
Oh yeah, everyone's going to love it.
Have you seen Lawnmower Man?
oh
No,
man,
I-
I saw it so long ago that I thought I was probably a kid when I
Freaking
saw it.
I'm trying to remember the name of the actor who did it. It was Pierce Brosnan.
Right.
Pierce Brosnan, before he ever became 007.
Yeah, I'm
he
so
was-
old that I actually watched the Lion King premiere in the cinema.
Don't
that-
tell me how old you are.
I don't know. I'm getting to that age where I'm starting to feel like
I'm
I'm
at-
a different generation.
I'm at
To
that
most
age
people.
now where I'm starting to say stuff like, I'm at that age now.
Yeah, exactly.
What was that one show that had that weird bird guy? If you guys remember that, not the Brock show.
Sesame Street.
No, that's just Big Bird. That guy's scary. But what's his face? Goodness gracious, it's terrible animation. It reminds me of this. It straight up reminds me of this.
Duckman.
Not Duckman. Duckman was pretty
Harvey
good. I like
Duckman.
that
Yeah, no, it was good. Freaking,
Harvey-
you had
that one was pretty great. But it's specifically an Adult Swim show. It is.
With
Let's
a
see if I can find it.
duck?
I'm looking on Adult Swim right now. It's not a duck. It's like some weird Indian guy. Not Indian, like from India. Weird Xavier Renegade.
Oh, yeah, with the
That's
duck
what it
robot.
reminds
Yeah,
me of.
yeah.
That's what it
Yes.
reminds me of. Just looking at that, that's the first thing that pops into my head. This guy.
Yes. Yep.
Like,
The
for the
low
little
polygon face.
I never knew what exactly to think when I would see this come on as a kid. I was like, what the fuck?
As a
Like,
kid.
Jesus Christ.
You're still a kid, Cash.
Yeah, I mean,
Right,
you gotta
yeah,
remember,
yeah,
like, I
yeah,
grew up
well,
watching Ren and Stimpy back in, like, 1990.
Oh yeah, same.
Fair enough. You guys were there at the turn of the revolution, but
Now, let me put
claiming
this.
the actions.
Let me frame this for you. I remember the Challenger exploding.
God, you are old.
Yeah. So,
I remember.
Anyways,
9/11.
Canonically, there's another universe out there where Big Bird did go on the Challenger and he did blow up. Just remember that. We could have lived in a worse universe.
Oh
all right, you
man.
want to feel old? There are kids now whose parents weren't born when 9/11 happened.
That is fact. That is
Yeah,
very much
that's crazy.
fact. How do you feel
So,
speaking such phrases?
Speaking
How
of
does that make you feel?
Helldivers,
Yeah.
Going back to a super fun game.
speaking
really
of
should-
Helldivers,
Actually,
I'm sure you've got a lot to
recorded
say
it.
about Helldivers. We'll probably
Let me
just
go ahead and,
reserve
I know
like
for a
2
fact
hours
I
for you to
record
talk about
games.
Helldivers. Do you reckon that'll be enough?
no, because I want to go
Nowhere
back
near.
to playing it. This is you have to understand. This podcast is taking time away from me playing Helldivers.
Playing
That's how much
Helldivers.
All right.
I love this
the
game.
bottom. Like, yeah, here.
What about here?
Like Jesus
All right.
Christ.
Careful with
This
that
is-
audio. Yeah.
Oh, it's a personal
Oh.
video.
Dude, there hasn't been a game that we've played in a long time that as good as that's gotten us like.
This is a
we
personal
want to be
video
able to
that
hear
we made.
Shakes talk about it.
No, I lowered it. So Shakes, you go right ahead. Let's just go ahead and show some of the craziness. This is the level we've been playing on. And this is already out of date because we're playing on like Helldiver level now, but
All right, let me give my personal experience with this game, because as someone who is a veteran who has actually served in the actual military, I've played Medal of Honor, I've played Call of Duty, and they're fun games, but like they still feel like games to me. They feel like a parody of what the actual war experience was like.
So you're saying that this
Whereas-
is giving you
Put a
flashbacks?
card down if you have it.
This is the closest in terms of the feeling. This is the closest that I've ever felt in a game to the vibe of a war zone, where it's like it's you and up to 3 other people just in the mess, and it's really hard to describe the chaos of battle other than just like you're looking around, you're trying to figure out where the heck you're even supposed to be going, what's it
called? Or
Oh yeah, that reminds me of Blackadder 4. You know, they talked about how. Yeah, could you turn that down a bit, Cash?
Yeah, I tagged it. And it started falling.
Yeah. Anyway, in Blackadder 4, they were talking about how it's really hard to actually communicate and hard to know what you're supposed to do.
Now, one of the strong points about this game is that, like, even if you're playing with people who don't have any audible communication, there's lots of ways that you can communicate with people, like, in terms of, like, pinging things on the map. You can ping enemies in real time, and you're looking at them and say, oh, here, here's a big bug coming. And none of it requires any kind of a language proficiency. So, like, if I'm working with someone who doesn't even understand English, I can just point at something, ping it, and they know, oh, hey, there's an enemy coming, you know? But the sort of like like delivering democracy or have a big cup of liberty, that's sort of like my country, 'tis of the jingoism that happens. It's got that very on the nose, like, yes, this is a parody kind of thing, whereas like with Starship Troopers, the satire is a little bit more subtle. But like just being in the mess of like everything going wrong and everyone's dying around you, and like you're on your last clip magazine, because let me tell you, like,
for that one.
I'm gonna get hate for that one, because if you call a magazine a clip, you're gonna get your pee-pee slapped.
Oh yeah.
But like you're on your last magazine and like you're counting shells and you're double checking it, and you're like, oh man, I've only got like 3 bullets left in this thing. And you have to pick and choose your shots. You're falling back, and you're calling in airstrikes and stuff. And there's just smoke everywhere. The environmental effects of it being at night with smoke, with fog or rain elements. There's so many ways that you're going to lose visibility, and there's just a mess of like you trying to call in stuff, and it's just it captures the chaos of battle better than anything I've ever experienced, because in every other game, like, you always feel like you're the hero, like you've got that main character feeling of like, I'm the hero, like, I'm the hero, I'm gonna be the one leading the charge, I'm gonna lead these boys into battle. But with this game here, it really beats you over the head with just how expendable you are. You're going to go up against impossible odds, and you're going to get killed, and the person who comes in behind you to take your place is going to be proud to be there in your shoes.
I heard that there's a lot of it's an always online game because there's actual impacts that your fights are making on the galaxy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a tremendous metagame for this, where like there's actually websites dedicated to you. Like if I was at work and I couldn't play, I could look at my phone, I could check this app and see what the progress is on the galaxy map of like, oh, we lost this planet, or we recaptured this planet. And it matters a ton, because that's what when you get home in the evening, like that's what you have to go back to, like, oh god, we lost Heath, and now I got to go back in there and recapture that. Like there are players who get very attached to particular planets and say, I can't believe I can't even go to that planet anymore because it's been overrun.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool and pretty innovative.
It really
like
is.
If a game's going to be always online, it should be always online for an actual proper reason.
Yes. And
that sounds
the
like
thing
a good
is, like,
reason.
you can actually watch the wall, the tide of the enemy and the allies, going back and forth, overnight. Like when everyone goes to sleep at night, you can see the aliens, the bugs and the machines taking back these planets because people aren't in the battle anymore, and the enemy never sleeps, and they're constantly taking back these footholds that have been fought for so long. And like you can tell, like during the week, you lose so much of the galaxy because you've got a large player base that have to go to work during the day. And then on the weekend, we
what
make these great
losers?
strides.
What are they
because-
doing going to work when the Helldivers
right.
2 universe is in trouble?
Yes,
How
I mean,
selfish
imagine
of
being
them.
cursed with gainful employment.
Yeah.
It's horrific, I tell you. Horrible. Horrible. Just horrible.
Horrible. But
Oh.
and plus, in addition to like it gives you both of the extremes. Whereas like with something like Call of Duty or Medal of Honor, I feel like you get a very middle of the road experience where like yes, you kind of feel like you're the hero, but you also feel like you're grounded very much in realism where yeah, you're gonna shoot a gun and it's gonna make some holes in a wall. Whereas with this game, like you're extremely expendable, but like you're a glass cannon where you can call in these orbital strikes, and all of a sudden you look up and you see your battleship up there in orbit, firing down these massive explosions that are just wiping out swaths of enemy, and it just gives you this thrill of power. Like you spent the last 40 minutes feeling so fragile that like you could die from anything that attacks you, and then you just call down literal hell on these heads of your enemies, and you just watch these just mushroom clouds going up, or you launch an ICBM across the map, and you see the shockwave of a nuclear blast just sweep across the battlefield, and you completed your mission, but now everything's just covered in fog and dust and smoke and fire and radioactive elements. And this is the battlefield world that you're in now, where you've changed the landscape. You call down these airstrikes and these bombs, and all of a sudden you've got these craters you have to navigate now. And it's a fantastic game. I was extremely skeptical when I first tried it, but I fell in love immediately with it because it's one of my measures of a good game, of any game, and that's a video game or a board game. My measure of a good game is a game that you can enjoy even when you're losing. And Helldivers absolutely nails it because there have been matches that I have played where things have gone completely wrong from the get-go, and everything's going terrible. We're all dying, and everyone is just scraping by for just a single inch of progress. But it's frustrating and unnerving and anxiety riddled as those sort of matches are. They never stop being fun, and that's rule zero of a video game.
And honestly, even once you start getting to those higher levels, once you start getting to the higher difficulties, yeah, if you can still have fun while getting your ass reamed, you're right. That is basically the basic mark of a good video game, because no matter what, if you're having a great time with it, that's already time well spent. At the end of the day, that's how you have to look at it. If you're having a great time, it's like perfect. That's time well spent. I basically am trading my time for entertainment.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be playing like a game that, you're just face rolling over and, kicking its ass and it being no challenge. It's always best when you have a lot of close calls and you get that adrenaline rush and that, awesome feeling
Well, the thing
of
is, like,
accomplishment.
you got three categories of games. You got games that aren't fun even when you're winning, and those are just bad games. And you've got other games that are only fun when you're winning, and those are games certainly. But like, if it's a PvP sort of thing, then you're only going to be having fun half the time, and the other half of the time you're not having fun, which is unfortunate. But that's how a lot of games are designed, where it's a zero-sum game of, like if you're like. I'm not saying TF2 is like this, but like if you're playing a game like that where one team is just trouncing another team and they're having a fun time doing it because they can do all this stuff while they're doing it, and the other team is just having to suck it up for however long the match takes, then yes, it's fun for half the people. But with like Helldivers, it's strictly a PvE game where it's you versus the environment. Anything that someone gains is your gain as well. If someone else picks up a treasure like a sample or super credits, that's for the whole team to enjoy. So like your gain is my gain. I'm not. I have no motivation to then undercut you and steal what you've won, because that doesn't improve anything. As a matter of fact, it makes it worse, because now have made the game harder for all of us because we've reduced our overall survivability. And but the thing with Helldivers is that even when you're losing, it's fun, and it's hard to articulate how it does that, but it definitely does, because that's the spirit of it, where you feel like you're this expendable character, and when you go up against these impossible odds, it just feels very. It suits the vibe of the game, and it works.
Yeah, cool. Yeah,
No, I
definitely
have
looks
to agree
intriguing.
because especially
Something that I'd probably
no, for
like to
sure.
try,
Once you
but
get to those,
I won't be able to afford it for a long time. There'll probably be
well, I mean, once you
new
get to
games
those
out by then.
higher and higher difficulties, it really is just the chaos of it all. And being down a person really does piss you off because you're like, it doesn't piss you off, but it makes things that much harder. It really does because it's like, well, we need all the firepower we can get. You remember those turtle shelled ones, the ones that are giant, the ones that just appeared earlier in this video? Those become regular bosses once you get to those
Yeah.
higher levels. Those not regular bosses, regular enemies. They just become regular
One
enemies.
of the things that you'll run into as well is that when you've got other Helldivers on your team, when you have a team of up to 4 players, and they can call down these airstrikes of immense power, it eventually gets to the point where the threat isn't the bug in front of you; it's the guy behind you who could call down an airstrike that happens to be where you are standing, and it's one
Oh
of those things
yeah,
where
I heard that there's a lot
communication
of
becomes
friendly
paramount.
fire.
Yeah,
Which
and
okay, just quickly, I did play Helldivers 1 way back in the day when, because I'm that old, and it was like a top-down shooter, where you just like shoot
well,
in,
it's
360
an
directions.
it's an isometric twin stick, but yes, I know what you mean.
So yeah, I played that a fair bit with my friends, and yeah, a lot of it was about not accidentally shooting your teammates, and yeah, I found that pretty interesting, and I guess it's the same here.
Yeah.
You've got to worry about friendly fire and accidentally killing your own teammates.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a lot of games that are PvE focused. They have to allow for friendly fire to be the case because otherwise it would be too easy. The same goes for like Deep Rock Galactic, for example. There's friendly fire in that one, and there's a lot of things that you can do to mitigate that. There's perks you can take to reduce the friendly fire effect. Which, if I'm playing with anyone other than myself, then I always take that for exactly that reason.
How are the server issues going, by the way? Like there was actually a time when they had to cap the amount of people that could play at once because of it was more popular than I expected
recently. They upgraded apparently.
Yeah, they did upgrade. It is still a little touch and go. Just because I don't think they obviously were not expecting the success that they've had. Like, there's been so many stories.
Yeah, it's been the
video
same
game
with
companies
Last Epoch.
World.
Like in Last Epoch,
Last
there's a lot of server
World,
issues.
There are these massive successes for games that are to coin the phrase, cursed with success, and they weren't just not equipped to deal with it. Now, of course, these things will correct themselves with time. They'll get more server racks. With all the capital that they gain from the sales that they get. Of course, a lot of that comes back to the pay structure for how something like Steam works, where like you pay for a game. The game company doesn't necessarily get that until either like the end of the month or even the end of the quarter. And so like you have a game that's like making all these sales, and you're like, hey, what the heck? Why are we not seeing more servers getting bought or whatever? It's because of things like that happening in the background where the producers of the game aren't getting that money until the end of a different time period, like at the end of the month or the end of a quarter. And then all of a sudden you have this big patch come out where, hey, now we can actually buy this thing, or we can make this upgrade or expansion, or we can handle all these players. And it's all got this like latency because of how the money moves around in the background.
I think you can see our ammo.
Now, hopefully, with Helldivers, they've got a quicker turnaround. I mean, obviously, you notice how they were having these issues earlier, and now it's March. It's a new month, and all of a sudden, hey, it's March 1st, and everything's fixed. It seems like, oh wow, it's almost as if the calendar changing made a difference. That's exactly what it was.
All right.
I mean, my understanding, it's also it occurred before March. Like this was we're talking about something mid to late February when these server issues were starting to get patched. That was my understanding of it, because they reacted pretty quickly. They reacted pretty quickly in that they were trying to get these server issues fixed, and lo and behold, they did.
Yeah, so oftentimes it'll happen, and I'm not intimate to the inner workings of how this particular company was operating, but oftentimes, you can go to a bank and say, hey, we need to get a loan. Why? Well, we need to do this. We need this money, and we've made these sales. This money that are going to get from Steam, for example, is coming, so we can get this, essentially what amounts to a payday loan, to make these changes now, and they have to be laser quick in this industry to make these changes, because otherwise
or they're gonna have players get fed up and leave, if they're not able to play.
So they're end up having to turn around and pay interest, a short-term interest on this of whatever amount, because of course the bank knows that they have them by the balls, so they can jerk them around in this way, but that's what they do to make their game survive. And in this case, it's a success because they've made way more than they ever were expecting to. So it's a net gain for them, but it's also a net gain for the banks because they're taking advantage of them. And Cash, is this you going around running all these bug holes like that?
Yeah, this is me,
dude. That is cash money.
Wait, it's the video you're playing yours, Cash.
Yes, and this is actually an older video too. This is a video that
I just watched this man feed 4 grenades into 4 bug holes, just one after another, freaking assembly line. Like that's how you do it. Because every bullet you waste on a bug that is coming out of an active bug hole is a bullet wasted because.
Well, what happened there?
It seems like Jake dropped out a little bit. His internet probably just lowered for a second.
It's all right, but you throw a grenade down the hole and it closes the hole. No bugs stop coming out, and that's how you solve the problem right there.
I mean, you got to stem the bleeding at the cut.
Yeah, you got to take out the spawners.
Slap it up as it comes.
Just like in classic Gauntlet.
And this is just obviously this is just one mission type here where you're destroying the eggs, but you have these bug nests on. Anytime you're fighting up against the bugs, you're going to have these. But also you have the machine equivalent. You get the machine factories that are creating the mechs on the other side of the galaxy.
Right.
It's the same principle. You throw a grenade into a hole and it destroys the spawner.
That orbital strike might get it.
Yeah, that one's. I haven't really played too many mechanical ones. That's the one that I'm going to jump onto next. I'm just about to get the laser rifles. That's the new one I'm about to grab.
Yeah. So I would say the biggest difference you're going to find between the fighting the mechs versus fighting the bugs is that the bugs are more. You're just bad about walking on those plants, huh?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah. So the bugs are more melee focused, whereas the machines are going to be more like you are with ranged weapons like laser rifles and.
I think we may even have video of us the first time we actually played a mechanical ones. We got totally raped.
Hey, so Cash, is this like your YouTube channel or?
No. Me and my buddies we thought hey, you know what? We should set up a OBS because why not?
Oh yeah.
We just said screw it.
Hey, so this isn't something that you can shout out your channel or something like that.
No. Maybe at some point in the future, maybe right around May or June is when I'll get started on doing actual videos. But even then, I almost walked into that line of fire there actually.
Yeah.
But for now,
you've gotten better about that. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. I'm not looking to take some bullets into the face. That's killed me.
One of the things I like is that when you start with your very first primary weapon, the assault rifle, is that it shoots out a laser that shows everybody, as you can see here, where you're aiming.
Yeah. You're right.
And even when you're not shooting, as soon as you're doing sight aiming, it projects the laser and it shows people where you're aiming, so not to walk in front of it. And there have been a lot of times when someone will die from friendly fire. It's 100% their fault. But then there's other times when you'll call in an airstrike, and it's way bigger than they understand, and they're throwing it essentially at your ankles. There's just not enough time for you to get out of the way. of
Oh
something
yeah,
like that.
we just saw that today. We just saw that
Yeah.
today. It was like, Commander, get back, Commander. And eventually, one of them landed, right on top of him.
Yeah, and this is a game that really the communication is vital because you're gonna throw an airstrike, and you're gonna say, tell everyone, hey, get clear, because you understand how big of an airstrike it is, like you understand the area of effect that it's gonna have, and they might be like walking up past it, like, oh, I can just walk past where this strike's gonna come in, but then it comes in, and then it's just boom, and then it blows up everything.
All right.
Right after this mission.
Cool. I think I just want to move on now because we're at an hour. There's
All right.
actually a game that you played, Shakes, that I saw and you recently played. Spell Rogue. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Sure.
So it looks
All
like
right,
it'd be my
so-
sort of game because I like the roguelikes.
Okay, so if you like Across the Obelisk or Slay the Spire, but you say, oh man, I wish there was some more dice rolling elements or dice manipulation elements.
Yeah, I'm always
then I
thinking
can
about
highly
how there can be more dice in a game for sure.
yes. So in that case, I can highly recommend Spell Rogue. The difference between Spell Rogue and Across the Obelisk, for example, is that it's not really a deck builder per se. You do unlock new spells as you go, but once you pick what spells you want to have for your fight, you can just hold on to those. You don't rotate through them after you use them, which is what I was expecting. When I bought the game, I thought, oh, I'm going to cast a spell, and then that card's going to go back into the deck, and then I'm going to draw it again later, which I think would actually improve the game, I think, in a way, because it adds that layer of randomness to it. But as it is, I find it very playable. But once you find certain synergies, there's going to be certain spells you're going to be looking for and cycling for, where once you get them, you're like, oh, I got this run. Or you're going to spend your whole run looking for those cards to make that particular combination. But the idea of it being is that you throw 3 dice, and then you take those dice to spend them on your spells, because those dice represent your manas. Now, one of the first cards you're going to get is something that's going to let you re-roll a dice for however many times you can use that particular spell. Fluctuate there at the beginning. It lets you re-roll a dice and you can use it somewhere else. Ice Spear is a very basic attack because everyone's going to start with this character, and then you've got Aqua Fortis there, which lets you create block, which will block however much damage that would have come in. It's just armor at that point. And then you unlock other spells from there. So Ice Ward, Deluge, those are green and blue respectively. Those are your non-starting spells that you get later on from either as a reward or something that you can buy with your gold. If you look up in the top right corner there, you can see he's got 90 gold that you can use at shops to buy spells or to buy artifacts and whatnot. And there's a lot of things that you can use to augment your gameplay. But the core of it is that you can roll dice and you place those dice on your spells to cast spells. You can re-roll dice. You can roll additional dice. You can use a ability called Foresight, which you can roll an additional dice on your next turn. And there are a lot of builds that rely on you just building up a lot of Foresight so that on that next turn, now instead of rolling 3 dice, you're rolling 7, and you can do a ton more with that. There you have these spells here that you have countdown spells, where if you look at the number at the top there, you just add dice to that spot until you eventually reach that number. There's other spells that require a specific number of dice to be placed there. There's others that require a pair of dice to be placed. But with Ice Ward or Aqua Fortis, you can put a dice of any one value of that range that says there. You get shards that you can use to upgrade your spells. And there's a ton. I've barely scratched the surface of it. I've just unlocked my second character. I've unlocked the second rank of my first character, and there is a ton of content for a game that is still in early access. And I can tell that it's got a ton of potential. If this style of a game appeals to you at all, if you like Across the Obelisk, if you like Slay the Spire, and you just want more dice rolling,
I did play quite a lot of Slay the Spire.
And I think that, and plus too, I would say that this has better graphics than either of them. I mean, the graphics themselves, there isn't a lot of it, but what there is has been polished to a mirror shine. Because you've got 3 biomes that you get through, and if you go through the forest biome, the desert biome, and then the void biome, and then it's the end of the game. So it's kind of got that not Peggle. What's that other game that came out?
Peglin?
Oh, Peglin.
Yeah.
Peglin, where it only had like 3 realms for a while being in early access, because they're trying to fiddle with the the core game mechanics before they make a new coat of paint for everything.
Yeah.
No, this is interesting because I don't think I've ever really had too much experience with these types of games, if I'm being honest. This is actually one of my first introductions to it, or to this genre of game. What's that? Is it almost like what's that game called? Rogue Hearts, Legends Hearts.
You're probably thinking of Hearthstone.
Oh yeah.
Yes, Hearts.
Which is another game that I've heard this compared to, and I don't think that that's a fair comparison. But
Hearthstone is
I
more of a
understand.
pure card game, like
Yeah.
Magic the Gathering.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, whereas with this, you get to choose what you bring into battle, and then based on you start with 4 slots that are unlocked, but you can unlock more slots using the
It's
gems
more
there.
about like building your deck as you go along by making decisions. Whereas Hearthstone and like Magic the Gathering, you've actually got to like build a deck out of your collection and verse other players. But this is more like a PVE where you're collecting your cards as you go and you're versing the the AI opponents
Now,
or the enemies.
before I go, sucking this game's metaphorical phallus too hard, I want to keep my critique of it even-handed. For as much as I like it, one of the things that it's lacking, as opposed to like across Diablos, for example, is that it's not multiplayer. At current, it's only single player. I'm not sure how they would even be able to incorporate multiplayer, if that's even in their plan, because as it looks, I don't think it is.
Well, I don't think they ever did it for
It's a-
Slay the Spy.
So, but like across Diablos, for example, is multiplayer, and really it's
Okay.
just changing it. Yeah, instead of having it's still a 4-character party, but you just change up who's controlling who. Now with this, you've got one character who's doing all these spells for all these particular all this mana, all these dice rolling for all these spells. But you could have like a party of 3 or 4, and just have them cycle in and have a suite of spells available to them to do their own dice rolling. But at that point, it's really just 4 players playing more or less individually against enemies, which I assume would just have a larger health pool to design it the simplest way possible. Because these are all designed to either help yourself or damage the enemy. And with you have to kind of, when you make a game multiplayer, especially a game where it would be like this, you have to design for it from the start. Like, you have to design a healer class, you have to design a tank class, someone who can take the hits, and a healer who can be spongy but also is going to help the tank. And like I realize that this is like a World of Warcraft formula, but that's really how that's designed to be. And this game is not designed that way. It's really designed to be a single player experience. It's fantastic, but that is one of the drawbacks.
You like your multiplayer, don't you, Shakes? I'm probably more of a single player gamer myself. Like, I don't get involved in multiplayer very often.
Some of my favorite games, I would say most of my favorite games are single player games, because, and I really hate to come back to this, but like I'm at that age now where it's hard to get embroiled in a multiplayer game for very long. And it's nice to have a single player game that I could pause, so that I could save. With Spell Rogue, there are checkpoints that you can save at before combat, so that way if you have to leave suddenly, you can come back and pick up where you left off. Whereas like in a game like Helldivers, if I leave mid battle, then that's it. Like, they're on their own. And the difficulty in Helldivers does not scale for the number of players. It's like, you pick a difficulty level, that's the difficulty level you're getting. If you have all 4 people playing on it, that's only going to make it easier, unless you have people who are really bad at friendly firing. But with but like, so like I have a whole ton of games that I love that are strictly single player, and I have a lot of other games that are strictly multiplayer, and I have a lot of games that are capable of doing both. I like multiplayer games as not just being a multiplayer game, but also sort of being like an interactive chat room where you can sit down, after I get home from work and I can chat with the people, all my friends that I have online while doing a collective activity together. And I think that's one of the strengths of multiplayer games.
Yeah.
And but like there are other times when like I sit down in the evening, I'm like, hey, who wants to play a game tonight? Everybody's busy. I'll throw on Spell Rogue and I'll be like, all right, I can have a really enriching single player experience.
Yep. All right. Now I've been on a bit of a survival craft binge lately, and I actually tried Valheim again, and I got up to the point where I was trying to find iron, the scrap metal to start building an iron armor set, and yeah, I kind of got it to a point where I died in a really bad place, and I wasn't able to get my stuff back, and that kind of made me give up and play something else. Um, it's it seems to be a really hard game, and I think it was made with the intention of having multiplayer because yeah, it's really hard as a single player, and
So yeah, with a game like Valheim, um, it does scale in difficulty with the number of players who are in the game in terms of like enemies spawning and their health pools and how difficult they are to defeat. But I've always been of the opinion that the swamp is like the barrier for most gamers. Like you when you first start the game, you get your leather armor, you get your first bow and arrow, and you get your first like sword there, or no, like it's a club, I think is what you get at the beginning there before you even get
yeah,
any kind of metal. And you fight Elkthyr, and Elkthyr is just such a great pitched battle. The music is amazing. The visual effects are incredible. And when you defeat Elkthyr, you feel like I can take on the world. And then you do. You go into the Black Forest, and you've got your antler pickaxe. You're getting copper, and you're getting tin, and like I think that point in the game when you're mining for bronze
yeah.
and
That's
and
the
smelting
main part
bronze.
of the game that I've experienced because yeah, I always hit a roadblock when I'm trying to go into the swamp area. That
Yeah,
that
that
gets
part
really
that
hard
part of
there.
yeah, that part of the technology curve is like always been my favorite part. It's like I loved going in on an expedition and having some people mining the copper while you've got other people who are standing guard because you've got things showing up to it that are going to attack you because you're
Oh yeah,
mining. And then trying to transport all that back because the portals don't work because you can't bring metal through the portal. So it forces you to load it all up on a rickety ship and sail across the ocean. And up here comes a storm, and it just creates these really great dynamic, storytelling moments in the game where you're playing it, but
yeah.
it
I,
hasn't
I
it
I
hasn't
really
become a
didn't
bad time yet.
expect. Yeah, I really didn't expect there to be a monster in the ocean that would suddenly come and break my boat and screw me over. I think
All right, well that's on you, man. You should have expected the freaking sea monster, but once you beat the Elder, like the Elder is a really great.
yeah.
It's a tough fight, but man, it's it's it's
I
it
actually
it, it
found out,
changes.
the way to beat the Elder easily is to just use those pillars that it has, that you summoned it up. You can just keep hiding
Yeah,
behind the pillars and running to the next one, and it makes it a lot easier.
well, yeah, you use cover, but you can use campfires because it's a wooden creature. It's susceptible to fire. You make a bunch of fire arrows, and there's a strategy to it. And once you do that, you're like, okay, I get it now. You find a creature's weakness, and you just laser focus on that. And then when you move on to the next boss, you'll be ready. But then you get to the swamp. You get the key. You head into the swamp, and the problem with the swamp is that you've got the draugrs, you've got the skeletons, you've got the
Oh,
the
the
uh,
bloody
the uh,
wraith specter things that appear at night. Oh my,
the
that they screw me
yeah,
over.
no. Well, I mean, going anywhere at night in Valheim's always just a bad time, regardless of what level you're at. But and then you run into the big the vine monster there that walks around.
Yeah, I've never actually killed one of those.
No. Like that's just something that you would avoid until like you're just about ready to head up into the mountains. That's when you go back and you start taking them out because you need to get an armor set that makes you really good at archery. But
Oh
the
yeah.
problem
Another thing that screwed me, like sometimes the world generation screws me because I set up this base in a black forest that was that I thought was next to a swamp, but there was this whole section of plains in between the black forest and the swamp,
oh
and I had to
yeah
I had to sail around just to get to the swamp, and yeah, it made it really hard, and I couldn't manage to find
yeah
well,
because
I
the
found a swamp next
mosquitoes.
to a black forest once, but the problem was that it was such a tiny swamp that it didn't have any actual dungeons in it. So
Yeah,
then I found another swamp, but it was between the black forest and the swamp. There was this big section of plains that I guess that's probably the fifth area after mountains. So it was
yeah.
absolutely impossible to feed
So
anything there.
so yeah, another problem that people run into is that like it comes down to map generation, and a lot of times like the map itself will screw you, and then you have to take and pick up your whole camp and move it to a different place because you found a better island or a better continent that had a
Yeah,
better
like
biome
I tried to
arrangement.
make a base like in the in the black forest next to the swamp, and I
Yeah,
built up a big base before I realized that the swamp was so tiny and pretty much useless,
yeah,
which sucked.
yeah. So yeah, it comes back to a lot of like scouting and map knowledge and whatnot. Um, but to get back to my original point is that the reason why the swamp is like the big barrier is because you're in the swamp and it's always dark in the swamp. It's always cloudy, even if it's daytime, so it's dark. It's almost always raining, and even if it's not raining, you're walking through the water to get from like place to place where there's land. So you're always wet, and being wet gives you a huge debuff to your stamina regeneration.
I didn't know
And
that.
so yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
new
So like
new
the
information.
reason why people have such a the reason why people have such a hard time in the swamp is because like you're trying to move around with any kind of a speed because it's leeches in the water. And so you're sprinting everywhere, your stamina's gone, and then you get into a fight, and now you can't even swing your sword because you have no stamina.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so something just rolls up on you and just beats the bag out of you, and now you've dropped all of your armor that you've worked so hard to get through the last two biomes, and now you have to go back there and get it naked, or hope to God that you've got a spare set of armor to have on a side to go back and get that. And for a lot of people, when they get killed in the swamp, when they get killed somewhere where it's really hard to get back to do a corpse run to pick up all their stuff, that's when they'll put the game down.
Yeah.
And there's really no way to, as the game exists now, there's no way to mitigate that. Like unless you died close to a portal that you already had set up, then people are gonna be like, I'm not going back, because I've had that happen to me myself recently.
There was this one
Like
point. Yeah, there was this one point. Like this was in the Black Forest, but I literally went on about 50 corpse runs just trying to get my stuff back from one of the dungeons there. Like I died in the dungeon and I had to run it was a 10-minute run and I had to do it like 50 times. And I'd like take out one skeleton and then die and then have to run back and kill one more skeleton, die, then run back and try to get a couple hits in on the spawner and then die. And oh man, it took so long. But the game was fun enough that I was actually determined to get through it. But yeah, like that was a pretty I found it, I don't know. I found it quite thrilling, just trying to be determined to get my stuff back, and yeah, that's what I had to go through sometimes.
My God, just looking at these things, that looks disgusting. That little grayling.
yeah.
I take it
So
the first enemy that you end up fighting in
Have you had that
whatever
sort
this
of thing happen to you where you've had to just be determined and
all right. So I mean, yes and no.
you're
The
just
thing
that
that
good of a gamer that you don't get yourself into that situation, I guess.
no, like no, I do. But what I was saying was,
Or you usually
I've
play
had that
with
happen to
friends
me.
too.
Well, I've had this happen to me recently with Valheim when the Mistlands update dropped. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna go check out the Mistlands, and I thought that the plains were such a pain in the butt because you go into the plains and you're getting killed by these mosquitoes, and it's terrible that you have something so small that can deal so much damage to begin with, but like also there's almost nothing you can do to deal with them because they're so easy to miss with like your bow and arrow at range that you almost have to wait until they get within striking distance so you can hit them with your melee weapon. And then like, yeah, you might hit them, but if you miss, you're gonna die. Like if you don't have like the tier armor of the biome already, you're gonna get like one-shotted, which just feels like a cheap way to die. And it had to get to the point where like eventually you just brute force it, like you described, into when you get yourself to a point where you can deal with it. But it's still frustrating, and it just makes you want to avoid the plains altogether.
Mm.
And
Well-
so like then when I went into the Mistlands, because I just wanted to see what the new content was. I went in there and I got like killed almost immediately, and I had been so gung ho to do it. Like the game forces you to either be extremely cautious or pay for it. And so because I went to the Mistlands without like having a portal, assuming that I was going to die, because I didn't function that way, then I died and all my stuff was very far away. I didn't have a boat to get back to it. And finally I just was like, you know what? No, I don't want to do it. And I don't have that youthful, determination of just I'm gonna try 50 times to beat this challenge that's been given to me. Like, unfortunately, I'm at that point now where I don't have the time or the energy to waste.
Yeah, we're getting
know,
old. We're old
But-
figures. But we'll get
Yeah, and
Cash to get our stuff for us. He can go through the 100 corpse runs.
Right. I can run through and do it 50 million times.
This
Talk
this
about-
is this was one of the reasons why I said that Pokemon Legends of Arceus was such a success, was because it did so many things that were just efficiencies for the player, where you didn't have to grind for hours and hours to get the same result. It's like these were things that you could get eventually without any real measure of skill. It just required a lot of time. And if the only thing it takes is time to do it, then it's not worth it. If it's a test of skill, if it requires you to do some kind of function of, gameplay mechanic that, you can do it right. If you can get it right the first time, you get it. If it takes you 50 tries, then you get it. Then yes, it's still a test of skill. But if it's just like you must do this benign action for 50 hours to get this result, then it's just all it does is just pad the game time. And the thing that Arceus does, like in addition to a lot of other things, is like it had like the shared XP for all of its Pokemon, which some people are like, oh, but that's not real, that's not true Pokemon. It's like it doesn't need to be, because true Pokemon is just game time.
I think
padding,
every
and-
Pokemon game has had experience share as an option, but maybe people were pissed off that it didn't have. Like maybe it was mandatory to have XP share.
No,
You need a special
no,
for that.
no.
You need a special
That
item for that. There's only one Pokemon that you could put it on. At a
yeah.
time.
So yeah,
Yeah.
the XP share was an item you'd put in one Pokemon, and then that would always get XP regardless of whether or not it was in battle. Otherwise, your Pokemon had to at least be in the battle for at least one turn in order to get the experience points from that battle. Otherwise, if your Pokemon wasn't involved in the battle, you got nothing.
Yeah, I like
And the
doing it
first-
that way. I liked, having, a variety of Pokemon. I didn't like just having one Pokemon that got a lot more powerful than the rest. But I see that a
Right,
lot of
so
other people play
for-
it that way.
Right. So with the first game that did it, so that your entire party had EXP share, I believe, was Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu or Let's Go Eevee, and that made so your entire party had the EXP share. And a lot of people were like, "Oh, well, that's dumb." It just makes it so that it's for easy casuals. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but like the core, you don't understand that the core player base for Pokemon is in their 30s. They're working full time. They don't have 60 hours a week to grind. Going through the same patch of tall grass and catching Abra to get your experience values that they want for a particular Pokemon to improve this particular,
Yeah, but probably the
trait.
most fun generation of Pokemon for me was White and Black, because of the fact that I was playing it during film school, and had a lot of other people to play it with and stuff like that. But the newer generations, I've kind of just been playing those on my own, and they haven't been as exciting, probably just because of that reason.
Yeah, I
So
don't know. I
like
dropped
so
Montreal a
to
while
come
back, if I'm
to
being
come
honest.
back to Valheim, the frustrating thing about Valheim is that when you die in a situation in Valheim because you were reckless, it's like, well, then yeah, you should have been reckless, but it becomes a case of like, all right, all of my stuff is over here on this side of the map. I can't get to it without a boat, and I can't make a boat without brass, nails. I can't make bronze nails without copper and
Yeah,
and
you pretty
and,
much you
and
you constantly have to start over again if yeah, you got to like
yeah,
build
it's
up
like,
from the beginning
and now you're
again.
back. And now you're back to square one. So now you have it's like this game isn't asking me to do anything I haven't already accomplished. It's like I've already done all these things, and now it's just saying, all right, do it all again just so
Yeah.
you can get back to the save point that you had. When really you ought to just have had a save point, because all the game's asking at that point is, all right, spend more time playing the game. Even if it's stuff that you've already done. That's frustrating.
All right.
And so when I get to a point like that in a game, any game, that's when I'll like say no more.
Yeah. Now just one more thing that one more main topic I wanted to talk about is along with my getting back into survival crafts a bit, I tried No Man's Sky again. Now I didn't get very far. I pretty much am still in the tutorial before another game distracted me. But I noticed that you've got like 70 hours on No Man's Sky. So did you want to like sort of sell it to me about why I should go back to it and go through the kind of mundane so far tutorial and try again? Because like keep seeing all these new updates coming out, and I'm like, oh wow, it'd be really cool to actually get to that point of the game where I'm actually like commanding fleets and stuff. And but yeah, I just haven't had the patience yet to get through the starting point of the game. So do you want to tell me a bit about
I
that?
mean, for me, yeah, I don't have really much experience with No Man's Sky either. So if you can, I've never really had. It's never called my attention. I've seen it. I know what it is. I know a bit about it. But again, I've never had the, how should I say, drive to pick it up. You know.
Yeah.
So since you have that much, since you have like 70 hours worth of time played on it, what do you think? What's your overall opinion on it? Is it something that's worth picking up, especially right now with all these updates?
You guys are asking me.
Yeah, you've
Yeah,
got
All right.
because I
70
have no.
So
I've
hours.
never played it. I never
I have
played it.
I have I have 70 hours of like the original No Man's Sky.
Oh wow,
Um,
that was a while ago.
yes. So like I played it when it first came out, and it was that whole thing of like, oh, it's a mile wide but an inch deep
Yeah,
situation of just like you go from one planet to the next. It doesn't really change a whole lot. And they've added a ton since then. So like you're asking someone to tell you about a game that doesn't exist anymore.
yeah,
Like
okay.
the stuff that I'm seeing on the screen here, all these dynamic ground effects, having mounts,
I
all
take it
of
you never
this
had
is
experience with these.
this is a completely different game. Like having a rover like that, no, I've never had any of that. I went back to try to play it again somewhat recently, and if you're looking at like the last played date stamp for me, that was probably when they had a particular update. I reinstalled it. I played it. I tried playing it for like 15 minutes because I had I did everything where it was the bases update where you could like build a base on a planet, and you could have your own like
Wow, I would have thought that would have been like standard from the start, but I guess they really did start off very shallow.
no, like you had nothing. You had like your ship that you could get into that you could upgrade by moving modules around. And you could mine materials to get stuff to jump from one planet to the next planet. And then you had to mine more stuff to get more fuel to jump from one planet to the next planet. And the idea is that you're trying to get to the center of the galaxy. You get to the center of the galaxy, and the game basically does a new game plus where you respawn on a planet on the edge of the galaxy again, and you have to do it all over again. It was tedious. Like you were mining to travel to mine to travel, and like there was like these hints that there was some bigger story there, but there really wasn't. One of the things that appealed to me, and the thing that somehow managed to get 70 hours out of me, was the fact that once you get past all of that, like once you actually had a decent ship that could jump from system to system, once you knew what to look for and you could like get the minerals that you needed, then what you ended up encountering was a lot of these alien species that you didn't speak their language. Like you'd have a bunch of gibberish on your screen, and you have to try to figure out what it was they were trying to say and give them a response.
Reminds me of the
hopefully-
Albed in Final Fantasy X. How you had to
So
collect letters of their language.
yeah, and so that's exactly what it was. And I would compare this gameplay mechanic to Chance of Stendar, or excuse me, Chance of Sendar, Sennaar, Chance of Senar. And the idea of it is that like you're in the Tower of Babel, and you have to try to figure out what each language means, and in order to get to the next area.
Well,
And
look,
so one of the things about
that
the
looks
game-
really cool. What's on the screen now? I wonder if you can like make your own base like that big and detailed.
Yeah, and you can. It's just gonna take you a long time to make all that stuff. But like, I had my own capital ship, I had my own bay, and my whole base was like on my ship. Like, I had all these rooms that I built to have like these research centers and have employees and whatnot. And I did all that with the base building update that had happened. But when I came back to it recently with all the new updates, I went to play it, and I was getting like a distress signal from a planet. I went down there, and they still had the stupid sentinels. And as soon as I tried to help out, the sentinels attacked and killed me. I dropped all my stuff, and I realized like I had no idea what I was doing anymore because it had been so long since the last time I played it.
Oh yeah, that when you try to jump back into a game that you played like a year ago, and you kind of just want to start over at that point.
Yeah,
That happens to
and
me a
it's the
lot.
reason why. Yeah, and it's the reason why I'm on like my 133rd playthrough of Skyrim is because you come back and try to play it, and then it's like, oh wait, what the heck was I
Yeah,
even
what
doing
was I
here?
even doing?
Same game, and it's the reason why those first like those initial 10 branching missions of Skyrim are polished to a mirror finish is because they know that you're going to be seeing them a bunch. That very first dungeon that you go into to get to the Dragonstone is so well done because they knew people were going to be playing it dozens of times, so it needed to be interesting. Not just that it had difficult puzzles, but puzzles that were fun to solve, even if you had to solve them the exact same way a dozen times.
Just a quick story about Skyrim. When I first played it, I actually didn't follow the main story, so I never actually discovered shouts until like way later into the game. Like I didn't even get my first shout, which was I don't know, kind of interesting. I know now to at least go, a few missions into the main story before I actually go out and do anything else, because I made that mistake the first time.
Well, it's not a mistake; it's a choice, And like
But like you
found
can't
that
you can't actually like get shouts from the later dungeons until you get that first one, I think. So I kind
you
of
can
screwed
still get
myself in
words
that
of
way.
you can still get words of power. Like if you go to the dungeon to get the golden claw before you meet with the graybeards, you could still get the word for Fus Roda. Like the first you see you can still get Fus. And then even when you can't use it until you get the first dragon soul from the dragon battle at Whiterun, but like you still can get the word, and you can go around, you can collect all freaking shit. I don't know how many it is, like 130 something words of power. You can collect all of them before you can collect a single dragon soul. Although there are a lot that require you to like kill a dragon to get to the
Yeah,
wall.
I don't think dragons spawn until you do a certain amount of the main story. Anyway, I didn't mean to go into huge detail about that. I just thought that was just an interesting experience. Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah. So I found that the metagame in No Man's Sky of like learning other languages, and once you know that word, like you talk to a creature, and all of a sudden you'll have that word pop up amongst all the gibberish. You can kind of figure out based on the tone and the context of what it is they're trying to say, and then hopefully give you a good response of like, yes, I would like to purchase this thing, or no, I'm not hostile, and or like, hey, do what I say, or else I will threaten you and give me a better price. Because usually the ones that you're interacting with are going to be like merchants, for example. But they've added so much content to No Man's Sky.
yeah, I keep being intrigued to play No Man's Sky, but I keep on sort of playing through the tutorial and then giving up and playing something else. Like I've got to try to have the determination to get through the starting slog.
Yeah, and
But yeah, I
that's
keep
the
failing.
problem. The problem with a game like No Man's Sky is that it really suffers in those early game hours where, like, you get these players who come in and they want to just be able to hop in a ship and go somewhere. And I think the game would benefit from you not starting crashed on a planet, but like starting, in a functioning ship that you can use to planet hop. But you instead of hey, you have to get these materials to repair your ship to be able to even fly it. It should be, hey, you need to fly down to a planet to collect these materials to build something to be able to jump to the next system. It still addresses the gameplay mechanics of go to a place, mine materials, and then you know upgrade your ship. Like it still functionally teaches you all the same steps,
Yeah.
but without it feeling restrictive where you're stuck on this planet that you hate, that every time you step out of your ship you're getting radiation damage or toxicity damage or hot or cold damage just by
Well,
being outside your ship. It's like
Yeah.
it disincentivizes people to explore. It punishes people for exploring. Whereas like a game with Helldivers, and I am going to bring back to Helldivers. Yeah, I'm going to talk about some more. Helldivers rewards you for exploration because you can do the main mission. You can go do the primary objective and then leave, or you can do the primary objective and like, oh, what's that question mark on the horizon? And you go out there and explore it, and like, oh, hey, it's premium currency, or it's this, or it's a regular currency, or it's this a freaking
Or the
artillery.
friend book.
It could be an artillery cannon that you can load up with stuff that you can use later on to help you out further along in the mission. And any game that rewards your exploration or rewards your creativity or rewards you for wanting to play the game your own way rather than trying to hamstring you for not playing it in the way that was designed, like that should be the goal. Because the problem with No Man's Sky, especially in the early game, is that if you're not playing it in quote unquote intended way, it punishes you, and that really disincentivizes people from continuing to play the game because it's not playing it as the designers expected you to, and you can't expect a player to play it in a predetermined way because any game tester, which I like to consider myself a game tester, if you hand me a game that says test this game, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to break the game. It's like if the game tells me, hey, do this, I'm going to do the opposite of that. And that's why I think that a game like, for example, the Stanley Parable is a fantastic game to demonstrate the design principles of game testing, because the Stanley Parable will tell you, all right, Stanley got up from his desk and he walked through the left door. And then if
Yeah.
you walk through the right door, the game continues. But
Yeah, I mean, I do that all the time in games. I will go down the corridor that's not in the direction of the objective because I want to explore everything. Like I do that all the time.
And what it does is the Stanley Parable, which is a fantastic game that I recommend to everyone. Like
You like
you're gonna want
you always find a chest with goodies when you go in the wrong direction. in
because
games that are...
no, if a game is designed well, then yes, it should do that. It should reward your curiosity. It should reward your exploration. And with the early game of No Man's Sky, I feel really fails in that, because it's like, if you don't play the game our way, we're going to punish you. You're going to take damage, and if you get too far from your ship, you're going to die, and then you're going to respawn, but then you're going to have to go and recover your body because you didn't play the right way. And that turns players off. And as simple as that,
Yeah. I just wanted to...
I can't watch this. This is spoilers.
Yeah,
I haven't played the deluxe edition yet.
Yeah.
I played the original
I've been
version,
wanting to play Stanley Parable at some point.
Dude, play it.
Yeah, intriguing.
I'm not gonna lie, it hooked me in the first like 10 seconds. It's like, oh, okay, this is pretty interesting. Like,
Anyway, I'm sure you're eager to get back to Helldivers too, so I just wanted to cover a couple things quickly because we're at an hour and 40 minutes. So I downloaded this game, or utility, I guess you could call it, called Wallpaper Engine. And the reason why I downloaded it is because when I've been doing my audiobook productions, I've started, putting these like, animated title cards. Like I'm sure you saw it when I made your rarity one. impermanence, how I had like the diamonds coming down the screen and stuff like that. I downloaded Wallpaper Engine because I'm intrigued with its ability to allow me to make like animated title cards for my, audiobooks. But yeah, overall, Wallpaper Engine allows you to have these animated wallpapers. And I think it would be a useful tool. Like I plan on having it as like a tool for having like looping animations that I could put as the title cards for my audiobooks. So what do you think of Wallpaper Engine, Cashflow? What's your reason for getting it?
I can't show all of my reasons for getting it, but I can show. I can say that it's pretty freaking awesome. There's a whole ton of different things that you can add in there.
Yeah,
dude, I put out
when
whole
I
movies.
installed it, I typed in pony in the search, and there's quite a lot there.
Yeah, there is quite a lot there. I mean, but look at this. Look at this. For God's sakes, this
Yeah,
is a
they're
periodic table.
interactable as well. Like you have some with the time. I found a wallpaper that had like countdown until Christmas, which is at this point like 298 days. So
Pet the deer, pet the doe, pet the doe, pet the
I
doe.
I think there's even some wallpapers that can act as games as well. So it's a
Yeah, well, I
pretty
mean, dude,
fascinating program.
they legit have full-on movies on here. Like, Wallpaper Engine is such an awesome, how should I say, program, and it's amazing. It's amazing to have all these different kinds of interactive wallpapers, to have movies, to have songs. There's someone that show you your
Well, one thing I
time.
want to know is it easy to learn to use it in these fancy ways, like to make your own wallpapers, or does that require quite a bit of skill?
Never tried to make my own. I have never tried to make my own. If I'll be
Okay.
honest with you, but it's never been difficult to change. Like, it really hasn't been. Like, look at this. Look at this. You got all these different kinds of
And
wallpapers.
that's made out of
and
like a static image that you put effects on, and yeah, it becomes like animated and stuff. It's pretty cool.
I think that's a little bit more to it than that for that one in particular. But I mean, this is why I like a game like, for example, Rusty's Revenge, which is what we talked. Not Rusty's Retirement.
Yeah, yeah,
Rusty, we talked
covered
about that last episode. And the thing I like about it is that it's really changing like what a video game can be, because you can play with it while having other things on your screen, and like you can interact with this wallpaper, some wallpapers from this engine, kind of like a game while there's other things going on your screen. And it's not like a video game has to be the entire focus of your attention.
Yeah, I've got my wallpaper engine muted because I'm not really a fan of it's so annoying when like I have some audio playing and I have to try to find the tab that it's coming from. So I'm playing wallpaper engine muted because I don't necessarily want. I'm gonna get paranoid if I start hearing noises coming out of my computer. I don't know where it is. Anyway, so yeah, I just thought I'd bring that up briefly, and it's something that I hope I can use as an actual video editing tool when I'm making my own videos to have more interesting title cards. Anyway, another one I wanted to bring up is KeeperRL. Did you want to look that up on Steam, Cash?
Yeah, I'll look it up.
I haven't. I've got this game on my wish list, and it just came out, the 1.0 version, and I've been keeping my eye on it. It's sort of a mix of Dwarf Fortress and Dungeon Keeper, and it's where you're the bad guy and you're building like a dungeon, and you're based in the back of the dungeon, and you're trying to keep out adventurers by putting down traps and stuff. But yeah, it's like very basic in terms of its graphics. And it's got me really intrigued, and I plan to buy it soon, possibly this next payday, if I can afford it. Because it's just something that's got me interested.
When they were talking about Dwarf Fortress being remade, this is really what I was hoping it was going to look like, because the existing version of Dwarf Fortress is still. It's not nearly as unapproachable as the original version. It looks a lot better.
It still runs like a turn-based sort of I mean, this is probably turn-based too, but it still has the same code where, you know, things are just happening one at a time, and it's still very ancient in gameplay. In the way the gameplay functions.
When I saw the new version of Dwarf Fortress, it just made me want to go back and play Dungeon Keeper 2 again.
Yeah, but this game looks like what I think a lot of us have been hoping for. You know, an actual, updated, cool, Dungeon Keeper game. But anyway, I just thought it was intriguing. I guess I'll have more to say about it if I do buy it, and I'll talk about it on the next episode of Mystery Gaming Bros. Now, next one is Pop-Up Dungeon. Did you want to bring that up quickly, Cash? I'll try to go through these quickly because I'm not as good at talking for an eternity as Shakes is, anyway.
No, you
So it's probably good to just knock out some things quickly at the end here. Now, what's intriguing about Pop-Up Dungeon is that it's an actual game design tool in addition to being a game in itself. And I've played a bit of it. And what's intriguing about it is that you can make your own characters, you can make your own spells. There's a lot of characters in the workshop. The game doesn't have there's only one item in the workshop because the workshop is integrated into the game. It's not like separate like it is for a lot of other games with workshop. And basically, it's this thing where you can make your own maps, your own challenges, and you can make your own characters. Like I actually found Twilight Sparkle as a downloadable character in their creation system. And the other thing that makes this game interesting is how it has like an AI that allows it to automatically balance. So if you're making a spell and you say, oh, it'll do this much damage, it will automatically increase the cost of the spell, like the action points that it costs to automatically balance, which is really cool.
And it makes sense actually that you were mentioning that you can make your own characters because there's a reason why I pulled it back to the beginning here. This is the first thing that caught my eye. Like, what the hell?
Yeah,
but it makes sense now.
Yeah, because you can actually design you can draw your own character and have it actually come out in that folded paper sort of thing. It's just like how they have what are they called? I don't remember, but they have like a pattern. That's it, a pattern that they use to know how to stitch together like a pony plushie. It works in that similar sort of way, where you like import an image that can be folded together like it is to make those characters. So, even artistically, you can make your own characters and pretty much edit everything about the game, and then download other people's creations and their creative ideas. So yeah, I played with it a bit. Probably only 5 hours, so I guess I don't know much about it yet. But I just thought the premise in general was very interesting. What do you guys think of it?
So far, it looks pretty fun. It looks pretty interesting. It's a cute little game. I'm not gonna lie.
It's got potential.
That's about as much as I would say, because these aren't too many games that I've played or have previous experience with. But it is a pretty interesting, looking little game, especially if it's something that you can make your own little character and you have to set something up for them. Like I'm not gonna lie, I'd make a little cash flow.
Yeah,
I would.
Okay. Now I've downloaded this game called Drawful 2. It's part of the Jackbox. I think it's included in some of the Jackbox packs, but it wasn't quite what I expected. I think what I thought it was what Scribble.io is, where you get given a simple word and people try to draw it, and people have to try to guess what it is. But Drawful 2 turned out to be more where you get like a pretty complex prompt. And at first I was like, what the hell? How am I going to portray this like 3-word prompt? But then I realized that the reason why it gives you big, complicated prompts is because it will actually put in like a fake prompt, and then it will put in the, what what other people have guessed. And yeah, it's a bit, has a bit more depth in that you're trying to fool people into thinking what they were trying to draw, but it actually
Hey, Shakes, you were there when I made I got the prompt Raven or something along those lines, and I tried to draw Raven from Teen Titans Go, and it was a freaking mess. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what it reminds me of. That's the
Yeah.
first thing it reminds me. Like that was complete trash. I still remember it. I got stuck at the legs because Raven has such good legs that you have to do it right.
yeah.
But
So
yeah,
with Drawpool 2, it's sort of like you're trying to get people to pick your guess as well as try to guess yourself, which gives it a little bit more sort of complexity to it than the Scribble.io. Although I think I would rather Scribble.io.
Well,
Anyway,
Scribble.io also has the advantage of being free.
yeah. I think that's what I thought Drawpool 2 what actually was, and that's what I was expecting it to be. So I was a little bit disappointed that it wasn't that, but yeah, like I got it
As
for
with
$3 when it was on special.
any Jackbox game, only one person has to pay for it to own it, and then that person hosts it, and then any number of people can participate.
Yeah. Okay. And the last topic is I don't know if we really need to bother, but them's fighting herds is just something I thought might be interesting to talk about. Have you guys played them's fighting herds at all?
Yes.
I saw it at a convention. Never actually played it itself.
Yeah. It's it
Maybe.
originally started as like a MLP fighter, but they got cease and desisted by Hasbro. And
Yeah.
then Lauren Faust actually volunteered to help them, create the game with original characters. So this is like a game that's become really successful that started off as just trying to be a MLP fighting game. And it's kind of impressive that instead of just giving up when they got cease and desisted, and the surprising fact that Lauren Faust actually helped them with the design, it's just quite an interesting success story in the video game industry, I suppose. I haven't played it much myself, even though I own it. I haven't actually played it much. All I've done is just play a bit of the campaign that starts with the Applejack ripoff character with the rope. And that's all I've really played about it, really. But I just thought it was, interesting success in the video game industry. And they're still like bringing out DLCs and yeah, I saw it in my recent updates, which is why it kind of went into my mind to bring up today. Have you guys played it at all and have much to say about it?
I have not
Yeah,
played
I
it.
played it back when it was fighting as Magic. I mained as Pinkie Pie, and then Paprika was the analogy character based on her. I tried playing as Paprika, and she did not play the same way that Pinkie Pie did. So when I tried playing competitively, I didn't do well.
I guess they've changed
changed
a lot about how the characters actually function since it was fighting as Magic.
Yeah, and since it's like any Mortal Kombat game that's ever existed ever, and like the Smash Brothers games there, where it's just like, hey, memorize this button combination to do a combo or whatever, and it's like,
whoa, wait,
spend all this time memorizing a move combination, and then they changed it. So like, I played this game and it was this combination. Now it's this game, and now the combination is different. And like, all right, well, I didn't memorize it that way, so I'm not good at it anymore. And then that was when I stopped playing.
Yeah, well, one thing, like Smash Bros is one of my favorite games, and I did play a little bit of Nickelodeon All Stars when it was free to play for like 2 days. I gave that a go, and it was pretty interesting. I think it would be an enjoyable game, but I'm not willing to actually buy it. But yeah, I tried out the story campaign of Nickelodeon All Stars 2 for a little bit. And it looked like it could be competitive with Smash Bros. I don't know. if only more people were willing to actually make it popular. But anyway, there's two main types of.
Didn't they bring
Friendship is Fighting is Magic a try because of the pony IP.
Yeah.
But generally, like I don't enjoy fighting games. Like I understand, obviously, this must be appeal to it because there's a ton of people who play it. But like I don't see the appeal in memorizing.
I think there's
combinations
two very different types of fighting games. There's the Street Fighter and the Mortal Kombat, where you have to learn button combination combos, and they're like different for every character. And it's more of like a memorization game where you remember how to do combos with different characters. But what I like about games like Smash Bros and Multiverses and Nickelodeon All Stars is how all you got to do is like press a button and a direction, and it does each of their moves. And it's more about learning timing and stuff, and running around the battlefield and being at the right place than actually knowing how to do moves, because everyone will know how to do each move. It's just a direction and button. So it's like really easy to get into but hard to master. And I just prefer that kind of fighting game compared to the ones where it's just whoever has practiced combos the most. But yeah, that's just my opinion. That's why I like these sort of fighting games, that are like the platformer jumping around sort of ones more than the Soul Calibers and stuff.
Okay.
So
I gotta say one thing that I do also really like, at least as far as like the Smash Bros type of fighting games. I don't really like the Street Fighter type. I don't know. To me, that one it was just never really my game.
Yeah.
But one thing that I can say as far as the Smash Bros type is that like even when I'm getting my ass beat in that kind of game, continuing the fight, there really is every once in a while, especially because I play Lucario, and the more you get your ass beat, the more damage you end up doing. So for me, every once in a while, just eking out that freaking win is just it's freaking like it's the cherry on the cake. So to me, those kind of games do give you that kind of I guess it's catharsis.
Yeah,
cathartic.
I'm actually
feeling just
looking
like,
forward to
wow, I actually
Multiverses. I actually put some money into Multiverses, and I bought the first couple season passes, and I'm looking forward to that coming back. Which is apparently in June or something. They've like shut the game, the open beta of the game, and they're planning on coming back. So yeah, I just thought I'd briefly mention those sort of games.
That's the one that has
It has
what's
like
it called?
a lot of DC
Cartoon-
superheroes, and it's got Rick and Morty, and it's got quite a lot of other interesting. Yeah, it's got a lot of characters
it's
from the
Warner Bros.
Scooby-Doo franchise as well.
I see. It's Warner Bros.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got
I'm not gonna lie,
Adventure Time. It's even got Game of Thrones characters. They're planning on putting
Gizmo.
more. Yeah. It's just got
That's a
some
throwback
really
to
interesting
been a
characters.
while.
Like Bugs Bunny is fun to play as well. And Steven Universe,
Harley
it's just
Quinn.
got a lot of really cool franchises in it.
Okay.
I'm surprised Warner
Oh my
Bros.
God.
Owns all this.
They're putting a human up against Taz. That's animal abuse. No.
Yeah, what's really cool about this game is that each character's got like a really unique mechanic to them. Like Velma, she's like trying to solve a mystery while she's fighting, and she's like picking up clues, and when she solves the case, she gets a bonus and stuff.
Wasn't there a controversy in this game where Velma put LeBron in the back of a squad car and tossed it off the side of the road, and people
Well,
were like,
yeah,
"Yo, what is this?"
that's her
They
super
changed
attack.
They changed it to the mystery van because of that reason.
Yeah, she throws someone into the to the Scooby-Doo mystery truck and drives them off the edge. That's like her superpower
But
attack.
I remember initially there was a little bit of controversy because I think it was someone playing Velma versus LeBron, and it was LeBron James.
Yeah, LeBron James is in the game. Yeah. So he's got his own mechanics that involve throwing a basketball at people. You got Rick and Morty. It's just really interesting, creative characters, and their moves are very creatively designed.
Well, I mean, if LeBron was throwing hatchets at people, That would be creative, but if LeBron is throwing basketballs, I feel like that's just going for the low hanging fruit.
I saw this meme once where it had like
You know what he should do? He should throw like ad revenue at people. That's what he should do. Because LeBron is
Yeah.
in like freaking everything.
Yeah, I saw this meme where it had like the most dangerous, the most wanted people in the world, like as in criminal wanted, or people most likely to cause World War III, and they had like Kim Jong-un, Donald Trump, people like that, and then they had LeBron James as the most dangerous person in the world. It was just some sort of meme that was kind of funny. I don't know if you've seen it going around, where they rank LeBron James as more dangerous than Kim
Don't
Jong-un
remember that one.
and Xi Jinping.
I gotta say, I do not remember that one.
Yeah, I'm not
feel
sure
like
what the reasoning
I've
behind it
seen
was.
it.
I just saw the meme. I didn't know the story behind why. Anyway, so yeah, I plan on getting back into multiverses when it comes, because I had a lot of fun with it when it was in the open beta.
Jesus Christ. I just looked over at my YouTube feed and I see Absolute Unit. You know DWK's new project? Let's just say he's doing a special education involving a grapefruit and a peach.
Okay.
So that's an
Well,
interesting one.
anyway, we've just hit 2 hours, so unless you wanted to talk about Helldivers some more, Shakes,
No, I'm good.
or do something, maybe you would rather play it at this point.
I think you'd rather play at this point.
Okay, that Gatling thing, we need to be much farther away than
All right.
All right. Well, anyway, I think
like
it's a good time to finish the show here. So, thanks for coming, guys. And I guess you need to go spread democracy.
Have a nice tall glass of liberty.
Yeah, the Helldivers 2 universe is dying while you two are sitting here talking. So, probably get back to it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go and change that.
All right. Thanks for coming, guys.
I died by impact.
Yeah, thanks for watching the Mystery Gaming Bros, listening. I've created a YouTube channel specifically for Mystery Gaming Bros. I've got it on podcast apps of all kinds. If it's on a podcast app that you like to use and it's not there, let me know and I'll probably get it up there. It's just that some podcast apps require a bit more, a bit more effort to put my podcast onto them. So yeah, thanks for checking out the Mystery Gaming Bros. We'll see you next time.
I'll
This week, Ashlow.
see you next week.
Yeah.
Oof.
All right, we'll end with oof.
Put that cookie down. It's not good for you. What is good for you? It's the Mr. Gaming Bros podcast. I like to listen to them while I'm lifting weights or driving in California.
Game over.